Rock and roll, Houston Texans. How are we doing today? And welcome in to Texans Today. I have a pretty good show on tap for you today. We're going to be talking about the Will Anderson trade. We're getting closer to training camp. We're getting closer to seeing Will Anderson in action. Was it the right move for the Texans to trade up and get a blockbuster move by trading up and getting Will Anderson? I'm going to break it down later in the show. But first, will you help me out and share today's video? Go down and click the share button, select the Twitter icon, click post to Twitter, and tag me at Jeremy Chuggs for a shout out. Every person that shares today's video, I'm going to give my dog Sadie a treat at home. Every time I see a share, she's getting a little bone. She's getting a little dog treat. She's getting a little biscuit. So if you want my dog to eat good tonight, go down and click that share button and post it on Twitter. Hey, because we were trying to get the most Texans fans on this channel as possible. This is where you get your Houston Texans news and rumors. So let's get into today's show. Fan Nation, a very reputable site, suggested the Texans made a mistake trading up for Will Anderson Jr., the pass rusher out of Alabama. Was it the right move? I don't know. I'm going to break it down here in just a second. I'm going to give you my reasons why I think it was a good move, why it wasn't. But the news that you need to know, the Texans traded up to the number 3 pick to draft Anderson after taking C.J. Stroud number 2 overall. And like I said, Fan Nation suggested that it was a mistake. Will the Texans regret making this trade down the line? Here's the trade that is in question. The Texans moved all the way up to number 3 from the 12th spot. They got the number 3 overall pick. They also got a 4th rounder, pick 105. The Cardinals received the 12th pick, the Texans' 2nd round pick in 2023. They also got a 1st and 3rd round pick in 2024. Going to be very important later when we're talking about the cons of this trade. But I want to know from you at home, who won this trade? Was it the Texans? Was it the Cardinals? If you think it's H-Town, you think it's the Texans who won this trade, go down and type H-O-U. If you think it's the Cardinals, type A-R-I. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get a YouTube ad break, hey, that's perfect. Go down there and answer today's pinned question. So first, the argument of why the Texans won this trade, why it was a real smart move for DeMeco and Brass to trade up for Will Anderson. First off, still have a first next season. I mean, everybody's saying, the Texans traded away a first next year, but they still have a first-round pick from the Deshaun Watson trade. They have Cleveland's first-round pick. Hey, who knows? The Texans might be better than the Browns this upcoming season. They also have a 2nd, 3rd, 2 4ths, a 5th, and 2 7ths. So they have plenty of draft capital heading into the 2024 draft, which should be a loaded one. But, obviously it would have looked a little bit better if the Texans had 2 first-round picks. But we still have one. So don't freak out. Don't worry. The Texans still have good draft capital heading into next year's draft. The second reason why the Texans won this trade, the Texans could get an elite pass rusher, an elite one. He was obviously 1-1 in this year's draft at the edge rusher spot. If you look at his career stats from Alabama, 204 tackles, 59 tackles for loss, 34.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. I mean, he was a force to be reckoned with. And, obviously his numbers kind of dipped this past season, but he was getting double, triple, quadruple teamed. I'm just kidding. He probably got double and triple teamed mostly. But, he still had a ton of sacks. 34.5 sacks in 39 games is nothing to shy away from. And that kind of brings me to this next question. How many sacks do you think he's going to get this year? If the Texans got the number 3 overall pick and they got an edge rusher, you're expecting that guy to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL. You're expecting him to produce right away. How many sacks do you think he's going to get this year? I'm guessing around 7 or 8. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comment section. I'll have my eyes out. I'll be looking. Go down there and let me know how many sacks you think Anderson's going to have this year. And the third reason is you kind of jumpstart a rebuild. DeMeco Ryans came into here with a team that was kind of like a shit sandwich, and he gets 2 premier players in this year's draft. And, I mean, in my opinion, I got producer Seeps on my right, another host, Marshall Green, on my left. Maybe they could disagree with me. These are my biggest building blocks for a team that's trying to rebuild. You got the quarterback, the left tackle, you got to have an edge rusher, cornerback, and wide receiver. As you see, all these slots pretty much filled out except the wide receiver position. Still waiting on this year for that. But, I mean, if C.J. Stroud hits, you got the quarterback. Obviously, we have one of the best left tackles in the game in Jeremy Tunzel. Kind of upset it's not Jeremy, but Jeremy will do. Will Anderson, if he comes onto the team, he could be a premier edge rusher, and I think Derek Stingley can be a CB1 in this league. So if you hit on Will Anderson, you're that much closer to competing as the Houston Texans are trying to do under this new regime. And obviously, I gave you the reasons why they won the trade. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you some of the reasons why they might have lost the trade. I don't think they lost the trade, but these are some of the reasons why most people are going to say the Texans lost the trade. Number one, there's some premium talent in this next year's draft. I know we always kind of say that after this year's draft. We're like, oh, next year. You thought this year's class was good. Next year's class is going to be good. But there are going to be a ton of good skill position players at the top of the draft. Here are the four that kind of stuck out to me of what the Texans need. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, two guys who played with C.J. Stroud out of Ohio State, two elite wide receivers. If the Texans could pick in the top 10 of this year's draft, they could go ahead and pair him with one of his old targets. I think those two guys would fit great in H-Town. Obviously, Brock Bowers is going to be a great tight end. I don't know after Kyle Pitts if tight end goes in the top 10, but if there is one, it's going to be Brock Bowers. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry, not only the dopest name in the 2024 NFL draft, but a pretty good defensive back. If the Texans had a top 10 pick, like I said, they can get one of these guys and get an even better roster moving forward into next season. So the second reason why the Texans might have lost this trade, because there's going to be immensely better trade value for top picks in the 2024 NFL draft. And what do I mean by that? If the Texans were somehow to be, number one, number two overall, if they were not good this season, Caleb Williams, Drake May, teams would pay a pretty penny to trade up to get one of these two guys. I mean, we saw what the Panthers gave up this past season to go up and draft Bryce Young. Take that, double it. Go ahead and double it. If somebody wants to trade up for Caleb Williams or Drake May, both these guys are considered generational talents at the quarterback position. So if the Texans were to end up with the first or second overall pick and it goes to Arizona, that would be not good news, because the Texans, even though they already have C.J. Stroud, which I don't think if the Texans had the first or second overall pick, I personally don't think they would go and draft one of these guys. But the trade value from the first or second overall pick in 2024, I mean, you could probably get like four first-round picks if you're trying to move up to the number one or number two spot, let alone the second, third round picks from that year. The Texans would have so much draft capital moving forward. Nick Caserio wouldn't even know what to do with it, which, I mean, I hope he would. But, if these two guys are on the board and you have the pick and you're not trying to draft them, you're at the end of the rainbow because you have a pot of gold. And the last reason why the Texans might have lost this trade, I mean, it all comes up to this next season, this next couple of years. If Will Anderson isn't worth it, like if he isn't a premier pass rusher, if he's not one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, then the trade wasn't worth it, because you gave up quite a bit to go and get this guy. DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio, they're betting on Will Anderson. They're saying, hey, we think you're so good, we're giving up future draft assets, we're giving up future draft capital to go and get you to be our piece on the defensive end. You're supposed to be a captain in the next couple of years. You're supposed to be the guy that everybody's looking towards on the defense to make plays. Will Anderson, if you don't do that in year 2, year 3, year 4, then the trade wasn't worth it. Because the Texans trading up to the number 3 overall pick, obviously we all have bad memories of taking Jadeveon Clowney 1 overall. He was okay, but was he worth the first overall pick? Not whatsoever. We don't want that same fate for Will Anderson Jr. So if he can't produce, then the Texans definitely lost this trade. But I want to hear from you at home. Get your GM caps on. Get your thinking caps on. I want to know, did the Texans make the right move trading up for Will Anderson? Give me a Y for yes or an N for no. I want to know from you guys at home. Do you like the move? It's very aggressive in DeMeco Ryans' first year, but he's trying to jumpstart this team. He's trying to bring some respect back to H-Town. Can he do it with C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson? Let me know down in the comment section. Y for yes or N for no. That's been all for today's video. If you like what you see, obviously you made it this far, go down and subscribe, youtube.com/TexansTV for daily Texans news and rumors. And like I said at the top of the show, I'm giving shout outs for everybody who shares today's video, and for every share of today's video on Twitter, My dog Sadie is getting a treat at home. She's getting a bone. She's getting a biscuit. She's getting a little, maybe like a little carrot, maybe some table scraps. I don't know. I'll see what I have on hand. But if you share today's video, you're giving a Golden Doodle's life in Dallas. You're making it that much better. So go ahead and share today's video and stick around for upcoming videos here on Texans Today.